Hi, Galen. Dad and Pikachu here, and we're going to read another chapter of the Christmasaurus. So if you remember, in the last chapter, or the last video, it was like a double book, or double chapter, sorry. We had one about the hunter, where he woke up and he realised that the dinosaur was gone and he had to go find him. And then in the next chapter, it was all about William and the dinosaur getting into the museum, and they had to crack the code. And the secret code was the date, which was 25/12, Christmas Day. However, what was really cool about that chapter is William got to climb on the back of the Christmasaurus and get to ride him, which would be really cool. Anyway, we're going to start the next chapter, but I think Pikachu wants to say hello. Yeah, he's pretty excited to see you there. The next chapter of the book is chapter 23, and it's about ancient ghosts. Now, I think this will be about all the old dinosaurs that Christmasaurus sees, because there's no real dinosaurs in a museum. So, let's begin. William's night was getting more and more bonkers. First, Santa had brought him a real dinosaur for Christmas, and now he was riding on that dinosaur's back through the deserted museum in the middle of the night. What an adventure. William steered the Christmasaurus out into the main hall, an enormous, gigantic, massively impressive room with something wonderful in the centre. It was a huge skeleton of a great diplodocus that was taller than a tree and as long as a train. It was one of William's favourite things at the museum. Look, and there's William. He's riding on the back of the dinosaur. Now, do you know, we've been to a museum and we've seen something very similar to this. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, we've seen the exact same dinosaur as this, which is really cool. We should go back there. The Christmasaurus couldn't believe his eyes. He'd never seen anything as huge in all his life. Is this what other dinosaurs were like? He thought. He walked closer to the towering dinosaur skeleton and saw that on one side there was a display with pictures and drawings of which the dinosaur would have looked like when he was alive and where it would have lived. It looked so green and hot there, nothing like where the Christmasaurus lived. It was dark and after hours in the museum, and all the lights that usually illuminated the display and exhibits were switched off, and the only light came from the street light outside, which trickled in through high-stained glass windows in streaks and jagged colours. The effect was beautiful, but a little scary, as it fell on the lifeless faces of all the weird and wonderful creatures on display, casting long, distorted shadows of the skeletons across the marbled floor. William had never felt scared before, but he was now, and he's glad he wasn't alone. As he clung tightly to the Christmasaurus's back, the dinosaur's footsteps echoed around the halls. The echoes seemed to travel for miles through every hallway, every stairwell, bouncing off the ceilings and back to their ears, so that even when they stopped moving, it sounded as if someone were still walking behind them. William kept checking over his shoulders nervously. Surely there was some sort of security guard at the museum somewhere, walking around, checking on the place, where the footsteps he could hear that echoed, ghost footsteps. Where the footsteps he could hear the echo. I don't know why this is a tongue twister. Here we go. Where the footsteps he could hear the echoed ghost footsteps of the Christmasaurus, or was someone else in the museum? And now, William had the word ghost in his head. If there was one place he'd always thought must be haunted, it was the museum. It was full of ancient artefacts from around the world. Caskets of dead, mummified Egyptian pharaohs that had been dug up from their tombs. Hundreds of real dead animals on display, from birds and fish to giant ship-sinking squid from the deep, dark ocean. and jars full of real animal eyeballs and millions of insects in glass display cases. They were all deader than dead, but their ancient ghosts had hung around somewhere, right? They had to have ghosts. It gave William the shudders. And the Christmasaurus must have noticed it too, as he'd started walking on his tiptoes. Walk it that way, William whispered into the dinosaur's ear. They crept along the corridor until they reached a large set of heavy wooden doors. The sign above them said, "Dinosaurs!" Rawr. Don't know why I'm doing that in the voice of Pig, George. Right, let's see what sort of dinosaur you are, William said, and the Christmasaurus pushed the doors open with his head. Once they were inside, William closed the doors behind them. That made him feel a bit safer. This room was packed full of dinosaurs. There were dinosaur bones, dinosaur fossils, dinosaur skeletons, dinosaur paintings, dinosaur facts printed on the walls everywhere. There was dinosaur footprints moulded into the concrete floor. There was dinosaur stuff all over the place. The Christmasaurus tried to take it all in as tears filled his icy blue eyes. William gave him a comforting rub on the head. These weren't the sort of other dinosaurs the Christmasaurus had been hoping for, but they were still amazing. The first dinosaur they saw was a large round robotic model of a triceratops, and they stepped closer. It automatically switched on, let out a fake digital sounding roar, and bobbed its head up and down repeatedly, and it had 3 pointed horns on its head. Roar. Roar. I'd imagine it was like that. Nope, you're definitely not a triceratops, William said, and they moved on to the next exhibit. A T-Rex, said William thoughtfully as they approached a tall skeleton of the mighty Tyrannosaurus Rex. Its sharp, razor-like teeth grinned down at them. Even its lifeless skeleton was frightening, sigh. No, I don't think you're related, said William. That's too scary. The Christmasaurus agreed. He wouldn't like to meet that dinosaur. They moved on to the other display in their search for one that might be the same as the Christmasaurus. There was a spiny Stegosaurus. The Christmasaurus shook his head. Nope, William cried. A vicious velociraptor. The Christmasaurus huffed and grunted. Definitely not. A breathtaking Bronchiosaurus. The Christmasaurus stood on his tiptoes and sighed. No, I don't think you're that either, said William. And so the search continued, but it began to seem hopeless. I can't seem to find any other dinosaur like you anywhere, William said, puzzled. What on earth could you be? Just then, the Christmasaurus saw something over his head that made his heart beat so hard it felt as if it were going to cartwheel out of his chest, which I suppose could be called heart wheels. William looked up and saw the Christmasaurus was gawping at a wonderfully winged dinosaur hanging from the ceiling, as though it were gracefully flying. That's a pterodactyl, William said. They were flying dinosaurs. The Christmasaurus went all giddy and wobbly, spinning around and jumping up and down excitedly, so that William almost slipped off his back. There, hanging over the Christmasaurus's head, was proof that a dinosaur could fly. Whoa, calm down, William cried. They could fly because they had wings. The Christmasaurus looked up and saw the pterodactyl's large wings stretching out on either side of its body. Only animals with wings can fly, explained William. But the Christmasaurus knew that wasn't true. He knew 8 animals that didn't have wings, and he'd seen them flying earlier that very night. The reindeer. The magnificently magical reindeer. Suddenly, a strange noise broke through the silence of the museum. Ho, 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 Merry Christmas! A deep and jolly voice called out, Santa! The Christmasaurus bolted in the direction of Santa's voice. Was he really here at the museum? Could it be? The sound led them to the room next to the dinosaur hall, the museum gift shop. The whole shop was covered from top to bottom in Christmas decorations of all sorts. Tinsel, bells, icicles, baubles, you name it, they had it. But what do you expect? This was where Mr. Trundle worked after all, and he loved Christmas. As they stepped inside, they saw a small plastic Santa, littler than an elf, positioned on the gemstone and fossil counter. Every few minutes, the tiny fake Santa would robotically wave his hand and chime out a selection of Christmas recorded messages. The Christmasaurus dropped his head in disappointment. First it was fake dinosaurs, now fake Santas. But then he saw something that gave him an idea. Right in the centre of the shop was a large display of Christmas cards for sale. He quickly trotted over and searched the rows of festive cards. "What are you looking for?" asked William, completely befuddled by what the dinosaur was doing. The Christmasaurus suddenly wagged his tail. He'd found what he was after. He gently slurped up a Christmas card using his tongue, his slobbery tongue, and the card stuck to it like a postage stamp. He hurried back into the room full of Christmas dinosaurs and waddled around the sign that said Stegosaurus. He started chewing and nibbling on the Christmas card in his mouth, dropping bits of cardboard on the floor. Then, when he was done, the dinosaur carefully used his tongue to stick the remaining bits of card over the sign. He stepped back so that William could see it. Now said, Christmasaurus. Christmasaurus, William read. You're a Christmasaurus? The dinosaur wriggled excitedly beneath him and did a little jog on the spot. Wow, I've never heard of a Christmasaurus before. Are there more of you? William asked. The Christmasaurus stopped his happy jog instantly and shook his head, sadly. You're the only one, the Christmasaurus nodded. The one and only Christmasaurus, William explained, stretching his arms triumphantly as his voice echoed around the hall, sounding far more epic than sad. The Christmasaurus suddenly felt happier. Maybe being one of the kind wasn't a bad thing after all. He looked around him at all the bones and skeletons, then noticed something on the wall behind them. It was a huge mural of a vast jungular landscape. The painted sky was ferocious and flaming rocks streaking across it. It didn't look like a nice place to live. That's where you're from, explained William, but the Christmasaurus shook his head immediately. This wasn't where he was from at all. The dry-looking, fiery place was not his home. He quickly carried William back into the dinosaur hall and to the Christmas gift shop again, where there were dozens of Christmas cards and Christmas gifts with pictures of drawings depicting the North Pole. And although none of them were exactly right, they were closer to the Christmasaurus' home than the terrifying mural in the other room. The Christmasaurus picked up a mouthful of cards with images of the North Pole, the Northern Lights, and Santa, and some flying reindeer, and he dropped them onto the floor in front of him so that William could see the selection. William looked over the Christmasaurus' shoulder at the images he could see, from the glimmer of love in the Christmasaurus' eyes, that he was looking at his home. That's where you're from, the North Pole, William asked. The Christmasaurus nodded with a defiant sigh, deflated sigh. William was starting to think that perhaps this dinosaur wasn't meant for him after all. Perhaps there had been some mistake. He started to wonder if maybe the Christmasaurus was lost. I think we'd better get you back home, said William, as clong, clong rang out from outside the clock tower outside the museum. They had been in the museum for an hour. The Christmasaurus headed through the giant entrance hall, past the colossal Diplodocus, and out of the door through which they entered. He carefully walked William down the steps towards his waiting wheelchair, which now had a light dusting of snow on the seat. As they got closer, William noticed something. There was something rather large sticking out from underneath his wheelchair. Something big and spotty was caught in the under-seat basket in which William usually carried his school books. What on earth is this? He asked as he lowered himself slowly from the dinosaur's shoulders back into his chair. He reached round and gave a pull on whatever it was that was stuck. It took a few hard tugs before it came free, but eventually he found himself sitting with a large crumpled present on his lap. Ah, my Christmas present. I saw this sitting on my bed just before. He stopped for a second. He was having a moment of realization. William quickly unwrapped the present on his lap and saw 2 pieces of golden eyes looking into his own. He gasped. It was the most incredible toy dinosaur he had ever seen. William ran his fingers along the faultless red stitching and felt the smooth snowflake pattern surface of its skin. He held it out in front of him and saw that it was almost perfect replica of the Christmasaurus. It completely took his breath away. The Christmasaurus hopped on the spot with excitement. He nudged the toy towards William, and William understood. The stuffed dinosaur was for him. Santa didn't bring me a real dinosaur for Christmas, did he? This toy is my present, which means that you, he stopped as the Christmasaurus looked to the sky and let out a howl-like roar as another plane flying overhead. You must be lost. Suddenly, something very strange happened. The hair on William's arms and back of his neck all stood on end. It was very cold, but it wasn't the temperature that had caused him to stand on end. It was because he felt as if he were being watched. Then, out of nowhere, a waft of something sickly and bitter drifted through the air and found its way onto William's nose. It was a horrid smell. It smelled like smoke. Pipe smoke. The hunter was close. That's the end of that chapter. That was a good chapter. We've not got much of the book to go. We're doing really well. I hope you're enjoying it. Anyway, if you're not asleep, go to sleep. It's definitely time to go to sleep. Night night. Love you.